What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And we're back with another night in the Seven Kingdoms. Oh, of the seven. Oh, in or of. It's of. But I mean, we all want a night in the Seven Kingdoms, if you know what I mean. Don't we? Don't you? Probably be a better show than this. So season one, episode two. It's available on HBO Max with audio description done by International Digital Center, written by Dakota Green and narrated by. I definitely should know his name by now, because he has narrated enough stuff, but I don't remember it. I'm gonna pass. But Dakota has done some great work. He's, I guess, is I've heard the rumors through the whispers of the people that I know that Dakota's a Game of Thrones fan and has worked really hard to get to this point, and is really cherishing this moment to be able to bring audio description to a Game of Thrones property. I don't really have a problem with any of the audio description here. I just still can't get over the tonality of it, and I've had somebody brought in to my comments last time. I do read your comments. Sometimes I reply. I'm a low channel, so like I'm the kind of channel you can talk to. You can't really go without paying for some of the other channels. They don't care. They have like hundreds of thousands of millions. They're not reading your comments. I have like one or two comments a day. I'm like, I have time to read those. Uh, so, um, yeah, some sort of old English folk tales about knights and and how there was quite a bit of potty humor in them back in the day, and that's what George R. R. Martin is paying homage to through these tales of Dunk the Tall and Egg. And then HBO is just sort of riding off of that. I don't want to completely. The thing is, it just doesn't work for me. I'm not mad at it. Um, I I I think at the same time. So there's two things about Night of the Seven Kingdoms. One is the fact that it's tonally different, and two is the fact that it's also contextually different. And I questioned some things because I definitely heard coming up to this that this is supposed to not take place in the timeline of House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones, although they're definitely referencing people who are in House of the Dragon. So I questioned that because I guess there are no dragons, but I definitely heard Damon's name dropped as being like currently alive. So are we not? Anyway, um, so Dunk is still trying to find somebody to endorse him so he can get into the tournament. He uh, basically he tells the story of Akron, Troy Aikman. I don't know the guy who was who was the knight that he followed around until that guy knighted him, but nobody was around to see it. And he keeps running into people who just don't remember him, and he realizes the guy that he idolized was very unremarkable. And then finally, he gets into the right conversation in the right room. Well, he does run into, there's another sort of important exchange where he finds some other knights, and there's one guy that became a knight but is the son of a crab man, crab fisherman. What did they call it? Crab fisherman, fisher of crabs. Dude's got crabs, uh, and he has made it to the knighthood. And he's like, "How did? Pray tell, how did you get there?" And he's like, "By doing the thing my family has done for generations, crabs." Okay, thank you for your Jedi wisdom, sir. Tally ho. Um, So Dunk and Egg are wandering around. Dunk gets really uncomfortable when the Targaryens show up, and he's like, I'm gonna go take the horse." I'm gonna be anywhere but here right now. And Dunk is like, all right, well, fine, just don't steal anything. Uh, and then Dunk hears a conversation, which we hear too, although he doesn't really react to the egg part of it. But there's a worry about two of the king or prince's kids. I don't know, royalty. Egg is basically royalty. He's gone missing, I think likely by choice, which is why Egg seems to know far more than he probably would for, a street urchin. I mean, he knows the way of the families and everything, and he keeps giving Dunk far more historical context than somebody who would necessarily give him. But um, Dunk doesn't really like linger on that part of the story. Instead, he approaches his knight and is like, "Hey, I know you know this. I've been trying to get a hold of you because he always spoke of you, and you must know this person." And finally, finally, this guy's like, "I remember him. He was a good man, but in all the years that I knew him, he never won a tournament. He never won. He never did anything great. Yeah, he was a knight." Um, and they remind him that he can't carry the same. Um, I'm gonna go with logo because I can't think of the actual word. Modernize it. That his knight carried because he's not by blood, so it doesn't pass down to him. So he has to come up with a logo. So he goes. He's granted the permission to compete in the tournament, um, but he has to find now a new logo for his shield. So he goes and finds an artist, and he's like, "I have some coin. I'll pay you for." So he has to get a new logo for his shield. Egg returns, sneaking around, trying to hide from other people. Gives him some more context. We see some early fighting. Dunk is worried that his the person that he looked up to that was so kind to him all those years that everybody else found hard to get along with, that maybe he wasn't as great as he thought he was, and he wants to be able to win a tournament. He's not sure if he can. We start seeing some fighting, some jousting. There's a princess that gets courted briefly by knights, with their goofy humor. I don't know. So it's all setting up for the next one. This was like a 33-minute episode, and that's like with credits. So I think I got done because I didn't watch all the credits. I think I was done in 30 minutes. So we're in a half-hour sitcom mode for for this franchise. Um, so I'm initially resistant to the individual tale thing just because Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon are such ensemble pieces. So they really have to sell me on not Chris O'Dowd here, and his performance as Dunk the Tall, and not Chris O'Dowd is he's fine. He's affable. He's likable. He so feels like he's not in the Game of Thrones realm though. And part of that also is this weird humor that we don't really blend well in. We're not really sure how to make Game of Thrones funny, or if we should. And there's like a reliance upon, again, the fact that back in the day they used to have these old English tales and they had a little bit of potty humor in it. And it's like, fine, I get it. Peeing is funny, pooping is funny. Is there a good place to take a shit? No. I think if you step too far away from Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, then people who watch those shows are going to be resistant to it. But at the same time, you kind of need to, because we can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. I think doing a show focused on a singular character is enough. So the tonal shift and balance, actually imbalance, is what's I think is going to hurt the show in the long run. It doesn't even feel like it's a straight comedy. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel like we're watching like Monty Python presents Game of Thrones. It just feels like a show that doesn't really know how to make like what's funny, what's not funny. So it's just kind of like throwing in a little bit of humor here and there. There's an earnestness to Dunk and not Chris O'Dowd's performance that works um, very well. And Egg is again a lovely child actor. He's now that I know where he comes from, not having read these short stories by Martin. It makes more sense as to why he felt less urchiny in the pilot. I think I made a comment about how he felt a little too happy and a little too upbeat. And I was like, this for a kid that's supposedly downtrodden and has been through some shit. He has he's really upbeat about things. But if he's lying about his past and pretending to be somebody he's not, then he has lived in a lap of luxury and been afforded education and opportunities and stuff. So he's pretending, he's cosplaying as poor uh, and orphaned, but he is not. Perhaps we'll find out in later episodes. Anyway, I'm still like hovering fresh on this because I like Dunk and I like Egg. They're likable characters. I need a show to formulate around them though that actually makes tonal sense with some forward direction and momentum to it. The problem is Game of Thrones is always known for its like brutal violence and excellent villains and these dark tones and themes and everything, and to just not to expect this show to just avoid all of that so that it can maintain this really sort of earnestness that Dunk requires in order to get through the day and be able to make a joke about shitting is just, I don't know. I'm Some people have said wait and see, you'll like it. Wait and see, you'll like it. Maybe. I mean, I entertain that fact. There have been plenty of shows that I didn't like at the beginning that I ended up liking later on. There were pilots that I hated, and I ended up coming back around to the show later on and then watching the show and pushing through it. I actually didn't like The Pit right away. I just didn't get it. I didn't get it took me, I would say The Pit takes at least a couple episodes before you really realize the magic of The Pit. But if you just try to show somebody The Pit at season one, episode one, I don't think it stands out from any other medical drama. But yet it's supposed to. So, my recommendation to anybody with The Pit is to stick with it because The Pit is one of those things that really does build on itself. But no, that pilot is just like that could have been ER, that could have been New Amsterdam, that could have been anything. There's nothing particularly unique or so. It's how they do the format in that sort of like 24 Jack Bauer thing, and that's why you stick with it. You can't. It's a show that you can't just tap off, and maybe this is that. There have also been shows that have gone the other way. I think The Acolyte is one for me. I liked the pilot. I didn't like the rest of the show, but I'll fight for that first episode. That beginning fight with Carrie Ann Moss, that was badass. I thought Carrie Ann Moss was doing a great job. So we just didn't get enough of her. So yeah. We'll see what happens with A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Another thing that Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon have been known for is sex, and can't wait to see how a somewhat goofy side quest is going to handle that. And eventually the violence and gore. I mean, it's been very violent and gory before. And there's been a little bit of violence in this, but not. I mean, come on. If you've made it through Game of Thrones slash House of the Dragon, you know. Like, you know. There's, like, way worse. In the first two episodes, we haven't come close to some of the stuff that's happened to people in the other shows. So, can it manage to do all that? Or is it going to avoid it? Is it going to sidestep graphic violence and graphic sex and go with a more lighthearted tone? Is this PG-13 Game of Thrones? I don't know. But I do know that I prefer the other stuff. And that's its biggest barrier and problem, I think, still is the fact that I would rather watch Game of Thrones than House of the Dragon. And I would put this as third. And that's kind of the problem with Star Trek now, is that it keeps every iteration that it kept coming up with got worse. You started off, it rose a little bit with Picard, I would argue, but like everything else that Paramount Plus has had seems to get discernibly worse, and now we're stuck with, you know. So I don't know. Uh, I guess I would compare this to Lower Decks, but this isn't animated, so it doesn't get the full, excuse. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm still fresh, but it's like a 6 to a 6.5, so it's like barely fresh for me. And a lot of that has to do with, I think Dunk is inherently, his earnestness here is warm and welcoming. He's a character that you want to root for, which is unusual in because usually they're complex and they're fighting for power or for the right or wrong reasons, and it gets kind of twisted, and you end up liking characters who are both good and evil. They have good stuff to them, and you're like, your favorite character has also done some shit that you have to reckon with in order to make them your favorite character. So, yeah. That's it. Those are my thoughts for this week. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I shall return next week with more Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the other side.